Welcome to the Hide and Seek Trial Debrief Podcast. I'm Autumn.
And I'm Melissa.
And with Outside the Box Dog Training.
After each trial, we've always enjoyed sharing our videos with each other while talking through our experiences. And we were inspired to share those insights with you. To all our fellow nosework geeks out there, we hope you find these conversations thought-provoking, inspiring, validating, or just plain entertaining.
In today's episode, we're going to recap our experience at the NACSW Elite Premier Trial at the Rice County Fairgrounds in Faribault, Minnesota.
For anyone not familiar with NACSW trial levels, Elite Premier is an all-day trial for dogs with their Elite Champion title.
All right, today I'm honored to introduce our very first guest, our friend and fellow competitor, Kathy, will be joining us. Kathy, tell us a little bit about you and Zest and where you are in your nosework journey.
Well, thanks for having me over. This is really exciting and fun. Zest is my 10-year-old mixed breed dog who loves nosework, and this was his first Elite Premier trial. He actually got his Elite Championship literally a week earlier. So
that's so awesome that you get to compete in the Elite P right away. Yeah.
So we were really lucky.
Yeah. And for this episode, who were you playing with, Melissa?
I have Kai. He's my 11-and-a-half-year-old border collie. He earned his Elite Champion title at the age of 7 and then participated in his first Summit trial 2 years later where he earned a Summit title. And we've mostly been focusing on Elite Select, and this is our second Elite Premier trial.
All right, awesome. Well, and I was playing with Meru, who's a 7-year-old Coolie. He got his Elite Championship last year, I believe, last summer, and so we've had some time off, and he hasn't gotten an opportunity to compete as much. We did do one other Elite Premier with Melissa and Kai last year, and so this is our second one. So really excited. I was really excited to play that day. All right, so let's dive into our first search. So our first search was called Archery because it was in the archery building of the fairgrounds. This was an unknown number of hides. There were actually 6 hides, and we were given 5.5 minutes. So we'll go ahead and start by watching Kai's video.
Go Kai.
All right, so I chose to run Kai on leash because he's Kai. So he's a very drivey guy, and he likes to skitter around a little bit. And so this is just a way to kind of keep us anchored and connected. He's going to do a perimeter sweep right away. He's not going to come up with anything to start with because, well, he's moving pretty fast.
He likes to stir up the odor.
He does. And in typical Kai fashion, of course, he's going to go right between people. But he obviously taps into this hide very quickly. So as soon as he hit that cone, he has it.
Very nice. Yep, good find.
Attaboy. And he's off again. Skitter, skitter. See a nice change right there. And then I love how he hits the vestibule and he knows where this odor is.
He saw the soccer dot.
Yeah, he's like, oh, that's out of play.
Yeah.
But I love that he's doing like calculus here. So it's like, it's actually a pretty simple hide, but he's thinking high and deep. And, it's just 2 + 2 = wheel.
But he's defining the scent cone that is like spitting out everywhere.
Yeah.
He's very descriptive.
One thing I do really appreciate about Kai, though, is it's like one cookie and he's like, peace, let's go find the next one. So he's just a very drivey guy.
Yep.
You can't say that he's not optimistic.
You could probably just say good boy and he'd keep searching.
Yeah, I probably have done that.
Yeah, because look how detailed he is. He's getting into every nook and cranny.
Right, which of course sometimes gets you into trouble with your leash, but I'll eventually get unstuck and get some tension back on that leash.
That
but
little
there it is.
slip. I thought that little slip was interesting. I didn't catch that the first time, but perhaps he caught a little bit of it. But his energy was driving him forward.
Yeah, and Kai's the kind of guy where it's like I think sometimes he's 3 strides before his brain catches up.
Yep.
And sometimes he's like, I'll come back.
Yeah, like that turn there. He's like, oh, wait, maybe I should go this way. Yeah, just doing a lot of detailing on the side there.
And Kai has this windshield wiper type of method, so he'll go back and forth, and I think he just tries to see if it stirs up some odor, in which case there's no hide there, so it didn't, so he just kind of moved on.
You're just so amazing. I mean, just having watched you with the leash when it gets tangled, you're just like, you do this magic trick.
I've had a lot
with
of practice.
The leash.
So I like this hide because the way he seemed to be interpreting it was more inaccessible than accessible. But just waiting him out a little bit because he hadn't quite settled, he goes and then gets his nose right on it because it is just underneath the rim of that tub.
Yeah.
Turn there. So again, we definitely have odor, whether or not it's just from that black rack wheel or something else. I don't know in the moment.
Right.
It does turn out to be that there's multiple hides, but sometimes you just got to leave possibilities open.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and he's driving this search beautifully, so it's you just sit back and enjoy the ride with him.
Yeah, you're like, oh, there's my leash.
This is what I'm talking about.
Yep,
See,
and then
like,
just picked him up and it's fine.
like, how did you do that?
A lot of practice. So I love this hide because I do think this one is truly inaccessible, and it's so different from that tub. So he's on his second side. He checks the first side. He wedges his nose underneath it, and by that third side, I'm going to call without needing him to look at me to say that he has it. I totally understand and trust him.
Oh, yeah,
And I love that he had to walk over those targets to find this hide. This is the third time he's passed this area, and because we went through the signs, I guess that's how we made that find.
That's how you get that odor, is you have to walk on those signs.
right.
Apparently.
Yeah, but you got to appreciate a dog that's brave enough to walk on different
Absolutely.
surfaces. So I actually think at this point in the search, I was suspecting that there was a hide higher on that newspaper rack. It's actually in the pipe, but he put his nose on, just not on the right pipe. And it was just one of those bad luck scenarios where, he was considering it. He just didn't have the source of that odor.
Yeah. And we'll see that with the other videos, too, where each other dog also worked that vicinity, and for whatever reason that hide didn't connect with them.
And so much pooling odor in these tables and the vending machine. We saw that with all the dogs, with all this converging odor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you'll note that I cut him off leash there, right? He's got a good pace. His head is in the game. Not that it's never not in the game. But, you get to a point where it's like, hey, I know it's going to be hard with the leash. I'll let you off because we have that option. And then you saw that I gave him a cue because he will orient to me when he hears the 30-second beep. He's a very savvy dude. And so I just give one cue and he goes back to work. But he is aware that if my timer were to go beep and then the second beep at the end, he always stops there because he knows I call finish at the second to last beep. So he's just a very patterned dog.
I think this last bit was really interesting.
With the floor.
Yeah, so let's watch that again here. Yeah. So towards the end of the search, I'll fast forward just a little bit here. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like swimming all over the floor.
Yes.
Like, what is this?
And it's clearly odor, right? But you don't know whether or not it is going to be a ground hide. You do have that crack there.
I would be, yeah.
Yeah, or if it is something else. And at the time that he picks his head up and he starts heading in another direction is about the time that I know that it's nothing. But you had to let it play out, right? It turns out I could have called finish a lot sooner because we weren't going to find that sixth hide. But
It was a theme.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the theme. All right. Well, let's watch Mr. Mayru.
Okay, go search.
All right. So Mayru's off here, and he goes to the left, misses that threshold, but that's okay. And then he walks by the hide in the pipes. But
I was going to say, I think we have to remember that thresholds are a human concept.
Absolutely.
Too, right?
Yeah. Well, he comes back and nails it later, so I wasn't too worried. All right, nice first find there.
And I love how easy that was compared to how Kai solved it.
Yeah, the thing I love about running Mayru, and I'm sure you guys can relate, is our dogs are so seasoned, and we're a well-oiled machine, and so I felt really good about sitting back and just watching him work. Now, there's a moment here coming up where I do make a little bit of a move. So I notice that he's going around the room this way, and I kind of want him to go back the other way. So I just do a little bit of a nudge here.
So you're saying you didn't want him to go through all those people?
No.
But I love how you do that. You quickly take the search and then you give it right back to him.
Yeah, he had a good understanding of that.
Yeah.
So he connects with this hide. So there's a hide here, but he briefly connects and then walks off. And that's very unusual for him, but I trusted him because he's earned my trust at this point. And usually when he comes across odor, he's really good about working it. So in this case, I kind of assumed there was nothing just because he walked off, but I always have that, thought in the back of my mind, well, that could have been something. Mm-hmm. But at this point in his journey and his career, you can see here he's working this higher hide beautifully
Nice job, buddy.
and sticking with it. And so I have no reason to doubt him when he walks off of something.
Yeah, that was a lovely fast call, too.
Yeah. And here he's going to walk right by those pipes, but his nose is very low. And I think we'll talk about head carriage later.
Yes.
But
good point.
Yeah, when the nose is low and those pipes, that odor probably isn't coming out until a foot above the ground. And if his nose is below that, he probably isn't. It's not available to him at the time. So now he's going to come around, hit that. Yeah, nice head check there.
Oh, yeah, that one surprised him.
Yeah. So the vending machine is on, so I do think there's some funky air movement there because he kind of lingers a little bit as if there's something else to work, but then he moves on. So I'm happy to follow him. I know we're recovering a little bit, and here's where he finds that target hide. Nice work.
Alert. Good boy.
Good job, buddy.
Okay.
And this is the last hide he finds. So he found 4 out of the 6, and he's at 2.5 minutes now. And so it's really interesting. We spend the rest of our time pretty much just figuring out what else to cover. Yeah, there was that moment that he looked at me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was very telling. It could have, who knows what it meant, but to me it said, okay, that was phase 1.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go back to this confusing, converging odor area.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. The look doesn't, I know we've talked about this before. The look doesn't always mean I'm done, but it's good to keep an open mind and be all right, well, what could that mean? Is it, like you said, the end of phase 1, or is there more to find, or am I out of ideas? It's interesting.
Well, he's so driven and focused, and it's almost like he's like, I've completed something, and what am I going to do now?
Sure. Yeah, that's really interesting.
But maybe not.
So I'll fast forward a little bit, but the rest of the search, he's pretty much just recovering areas that he's kind of traveled through before, but with a different intensity. He's kind of, swimming through the air, dabbing on different surfaces. It looks like he's working really hard, and this is really hard for me to pull him away from because I saw that interest over by the green stuff by the wall that he left. I could have chose to take him back there, but when I have a dog that's working this intensely, it's so hard to pull him out of this. I feel like even though he's already found a couple of the hides back here, he's working like there is something else to find. And perhaps that vending machine is swirling around some odor, or the airflow is just making enough pooling and trapping spots that it's keeping him in longer than it should.
Well, there's another hide out there, so maybe it isn't keeping him in longer than it should. I don't know. I would guess that there's just a ton of converging odor, and possibly that pipe hide is part of it.
Maybe, yeah.
And it could be lofting. I personally, my guess based on Kai is that, and his interest high on the newspaper thing, is really just that it could be lofting up, and so it could be coming down somewhere over here, making things just a little bit more murky. But this is a game of luck if the handler steps in, right? So there could have been a hide over here. Technically there was, and you could have let him play out here, or you could have taken him away and maybe gone and found that other hide, but you didn't know that there was another hide there to find. He didn't give you enough to have you suspect it.
Yeah, there was a lot more interest shown over here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And look at how carefully he's detailing this chair. However, if there was a hide on one of those chairs, I would have expected him to get that earlier on.
Sure.
So that's interesting.
And sometimes I think it's a gut check too, because he gives a pretty good sniff to those chairs, and you don't say anything, but on that garbage can or the recycling bin, you called that so fast.
Right.
He hadn't even actually put his nose on it, and you knew that the hide was there. So it's just one of those interesting things about knowing your dog.
Yep.
The difference between interest and significance.
Yeah, and like I said, with the chairs, I didn't call anything because I felt that, well, if there was a hide there, he probably would have come across that earlier in the search. So I kind of read that as, okay, I'm just reaching deeper to see what else I can come up with. Because he does love searching, like both of your dogs. Okay, so let's move on to Zest.
Before we start the video, I just want to give a shout out to Wyatt at Vega Media. He actually did a rush order for me because he knew about the podcast and he's excited to support the podcast. He provides a great service to our community, and I'm really glad to have this video. It's also kind of a cool, different perspective. We saw the GoPro videos for the other dogs, and now we get kind of to look at the whole picture from a distance.
Yeah, and we'll link Wyatt's information in our show notes.
The other thing before we start is I just want to say, especially those who don't know my dog Zest, he's typically a pretty confident searcher. I would say a search like this, he would have been similar typically to Meru. However, things went a little bit differently, so it'll be interesting to watch. But I just wanted to mention that first.
Yeah, good call.
So one thing Wyatt does is he marks up where all the hides are, which is really cool.
And this is in his premium version.
Yes.
Yep. And the temperature of all the hides.
Yep. So as soon as Zest comes in, from my perspective, when I saw him, I could tell immediately he was a little wary of the floor. I've seen that a little bit lately with him, where slippery floors. Then he kind of gets going. I think I still saw a little bit of wariness, but then, dun dun dun, he slipped. Poor guy. Then he becomes very cautious and slows way, way down. But interestingly, he still makes the choice to work.
Yep.
Which you see that with a lot of dogs, that they're scared of whatever, but they want to work. They keep working. They push through. So he finds this hide. On the first pass, he's moving a lot more slowly. Here he's kind of tiptoeing. And meanwhile, I mean, my heart is kind of breaking because I know he's scared, but I'm also fascinated at the same time.
It's a lot of emotions.
And so here at this point, I'm just trying to encourage him and support him.
Yeah.
I'm not so much handling him in a nosework way. But interestingly, he stalled out right next to a hide. And then it's like, oh, I'm scared of the floor, but there's a hide here.
Yeah, that was beautiful timing, really. If you were going to stop anywhere, that was where he would need to stop.
So here I'm still just going ahead of him, which I normally would not do. I usually let him lead the way.
But you're really doing what you need to support your dog in the moment. And we'll see later that he does open up and makes...
Oh, buddy, look at it. One foot in front of the other.
Yep, he's doing it.
Yeah. And it won't be long, I know, before he perks right up. I read about the third hide. He was like, oh, okay.
But look at this.
Beautiful. But I love how careful you are, Kathy, about not getting too ahead of him. And like you said, your style isn't to lead him, but you also need to like help build his confidence in this moment.
But then here, now he's picking up. Now he's building some confidence.
Absolutely, yeah.
And look at that low head carriage again, and
Yeah.
how much that's going to apply to a fast find on this wheel.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And now we're going to see he goes right by, kind of looks at acknowledges something about that pipe. I don't know what it is.
And he was even pretty close to the actual location of
Yeah,
that
because we get a
find.
nice angle
See?
here.
Yes,
Yeah, see?
It's in that outer corner pipe, so it's like he was practically on it, but maybe just a little bit too low. But there was luck involved with that one.
Absolutely,
There's always luck involved.
I
So
like
now
the
I
little
feel
story.
like he starts. I feel like he's working converging odor, but he also picks up that recycling bin hide.
Yeah, there's a lot
And,
of like sway to his movement.
Yeah, this was pretty cool to watch.
Yeah.
What a good boy. And I am not calling this quickly.
That's okay. You don't have to. I don't.
What a good boy.
He likes to work to source too, though.
Yeah, he does, absolutely. And that's going to come into play in another search. But he's definitely picked it up now.
Oh, yeah. He looks a lot more
Yeah,
like
if you want to
normal
like
pace.
maybe fast forward it till he comes back to the tables. So he just goes back to that other side.
Okay. So he's going by the hides he found.
Yeah,
Okay, here
and
we
now, just like the other two, he's working up by that vending machine and by the tables. And you know, again, we don't know, but we can speculate that there is obviously this is an area of interest for all the dogs. And
He does such a nice job of not like reconnecting with the hide. He's just clearly searching for more.
yeah, and just like Autumn, I'm just gonna let him go because
Yeah.
I don't know where the hides are.
And at this level, you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. All right. Well, that was a fun search, I thought. It was a good one to start with.
Yeah.
And even though not all the hides were super available, like I found 4, you found 5, you found 5.
Nobody found the one.
Yeah, I know.
But that's okay.
Yeah, and again, at this level, that's okay. I love that even though Elite Premier, there is some pressure because the threshold to keep your points is higher. So in normal Elite, it's 44 points? 43 points.
Yep.
And then in Elite Premier, it's 60. So there's a little bit more pressure to find the hides, but you still don't have to be perfect. So I love how, like in an unknown number, you're not necessarily hungry to find more unless it's like the end of the day and you didn't find a lot, you know. But the first search of the day, you know, they tell you an unknown number. I feel like we're a little bit more relaxed in taking what our dogs give us.
Yes, yeah. I thought it was probably my favorite search of the day.
Yeah.
I felt good coming out with 5. I wouldn't say that I was like, oh, we missed one, but I mean, it turns out we did, but that's okay, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to find them all.
That's right.
Have a good search.
Yeah.
But again, it was fun energy. It was a fun room to search. The odor puzzles were entertaining and interesting. So yeah, it was a good start to the day.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, and for us, it was more because I remember coming out to the parking lot. Oh, Zest was scared of the floor. And so
Yeah.
that was kind of my takeaway. But now that I see it, I feel like there were a lot of positives for sure too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you had said the CO was watching your search, and
Yeah.
that she said she really liked your dog.
Yeah,
and he was
that's
kind
right.
of like, why? But looking at what he pulled off again to practically be one pass, right? I mean, he had 5 in a single pass was great because I went around that room a lot.
Yeah, and in hindsight, I mean, you can look probably more fondly on the search knowing
yeah.
that, like, you know, the flooring wasn't a huge issue throughout the rest of the day. I think, you know, if you see something unexpected in the first search, it's easy to worry that that's going to, keep unfolding throughout the day. Yeah. So, yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. All right, shall we move on to our next search?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, all 3 of us did the beef barn next, and the beef barn was also an unknown number of hides. We were given 5 minutes. There were actually 3 hides.
And this was on leash because both the entrance and the exit were open at all times.
That's right. Okay, so we're going to watch Mr. Mayru first.
Right. All right, go search.
Okay, so we come into the search, lots of stuff here in the front. And then he just wants to jet down the aisle here. So one thing that's interesting about Mayru is he does get weirded out by stuff occasionally. And there's going to be a little, like, teacup here that he is not too sure about. But just like we talked about with Zest and the flooring issue, you know, it's kind of a fine line on how to handle it sometimes. And in this case, like, I know he's got a history of doing this, but he actually recovered a lot quicker than he would normally. So I let him keep working, and it was great that he kept working despite being a little nervous about that.
And there was definitely odor information in here.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, that was
With
it
Zest.
turns out to be a point of convergence, but at the time you're trying to figure it out.
And what was hard for me here is that he kept wanting to interact with that teacup. And so it was like, are you interacting because there's odor, or are you interacting because you need to check it out. And so here, yep, we just missed his first find. So this one was a tricky one because it was low. And so he keeps his head, naturally low. If I back up just a little bit here, he's doing a lot of low searching, and you can see that moment where he catches it. Nice. And he's very clear again. Like I said, he doesn't walk off hides too often. And so that was a nice find for him. But yeah, clearly that scary teacup did not impact what happened after that. So he did let that go. So in this search, we had a lot of stuff in the middle of two open spaces. And so there was a hide back here in the corner. And I thought this was great because it's a transition space. And I think it was inaccessible and high.
No, I think it was just right underneath the railing.
Okay, so it was accessible, but it was just high. Yeah. So one thing that was also interesting is that there's a point here where he stops and he has a really strong change to something here. And I don't know if this is near that crack hide, but the CO in her debrief video said something about odor traveling across that that aisle of stuff in the middle.
Well, sorry.
I do wonder if he caught that.
It's just interesting. It's such an interesting space because it is an area that's open, but it's a closed off area.
Yeah.
So the dog's never going to be able to investigate that.
And he has another moment, I think you coined it safety legs, where he's not so sure there's the safety legs.
Safety legs.
Yep. But he recovers very quickly and continues to work. And I think because he knows there's a hide nearby.
Oh, yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
And just like Zest, he just keeps working.
Yeah, and this is where it gets hard because, like, I want him to continue to do his thing. He's willing to continue to work it out, but you can see that he's not so sure. But like I said, from history, I know that, like, he can work through some of that stuff. So, yeah. And then I try and make my call fast so that we can get out of Dodge. So we kind of cover this corner real quick. And then I kind of intend on moving down the wall here. She covers nicely.
Yep. And of course, he's found all the hides. You just don't know that that's all the hides at this point.
That's right. So yeah, we cover the wall. I do another move up here that I did in the archery building where I just want him to cover that corner, so I turn him around. He takes that suggestion nicely. And then from here, I kind of just want to let him lead the way, so he does cross over at some point. And he has another moment where he's interested in the fence again. That might be a little bit further down. I'm going to fast forward. Okay, so at the end here, he has another moment where he's got a little head snap. And I think it's the same area he investigated before. Now, he's reaching and he's still moving, but there's this weird, like, stillness, so I don't know if it's just interest. And I didn't call it, and I was right. But it was very tempting to call because he stopped a second time, and it's like when they show interest a second time, that's when it's like, ooh, maybe there was something there. And then he almost looked like he was reaching higher for something, and then he just left.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, I just thought about this, the archery building search where he had that interest in the green stuff along, the side of the building. He left and there was odor, and I just trusted him. Right. And I did the same thing in the beef barn. And the nice thing about these trials is you don't, unless you're talking to people, which we shouldn't be doing, you don't know what you left behind. Right. So if I had known that he had left that hide behind, I might have second guessed and made a different decision. Yep. But because I just took that behavior as honest in the archery building, I did the same thing in the beef barn. Right. Yep. I do wonder if I would have made a different decision if I had known my dog walked off odor. Yeah. Anyway, it's very interesting.
Very interesting. But in this case, it saved you a no.
That's right. Okay, so let's go to Kai next, or should we do Zest?
Let's do Zest.
Okay, we'll go to Zest video.
So he comes in. Normally, I will run off leash, but of course we had to run on leash for this one. We'll talk maybe a little bit. I want to watch this first fine, but I might talk a little bit about the on leash, off leash. You can see he's marked where the hide is. It's high on the fence there.
He's doing a really nice job of painting the skirt of this hide, because you're definitely not manipulating keeping him in this space.
And he's a dog that likes to work to source. At least that's the way that I interpret his behavior. He does not actually, there, I called it there. So he never actually sourced it. You can see kind of, when I say find more, you can't see it really well, but he tries to keep searching, which he will not typically do. Mm-hmm. Usually when I find more, he's off. But he hadn't worked at the source, and what I speculate is that he was not satisfied.
This is where he look at Jeff.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it the hide or is it Jeff? I think it's Jeff. But then he comes back over here, and I think in a minute we're going to see him turn around again. Let's see. And again, this is just my interpretation from knowing my dog, but he's returning to this hide, and he's not asking for payment, but I think he still wants to source it. And my reaction is, in training we do that, but okay, buddy, here's a cookie. We got to keep going.
Yeah, it's hard to let that play out in competition.
Yeah. So that's just on the fly. That's how I treated it.
So interesting to see that on that first pass, he walked right over that ground hide.
But then he turns around.
But that's how Meru caught it, was from that other side. Mm-hmm. I remember being so surprised. It's like, okay, call it. But it's like, really? Okay, call it. But I wasn't expecting that, I guess.
Yeah, that was a very unexpected hide for sure.
So I also want to mention these videos. I think the GoPro videos are really cool to see if you want a really close up of your dog's behavior. But these videos from Wyatt, especially the way he does all these different camera angles and edits them together. I know I tend to get lost in a search, and when I'm watching a GoPro, I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm looking at in the big picture. So it's really nice to see the big screen. Yeah. And then if you want to look at handling, but don't look at my handling. But you can see the handling as well, which you can't see in the GoPro.
That's right.
So they both have advantages.
It's great to have multiple perspectives for sure.
So he went in and got that.
Yeah, he was very precise about that. And like you said, he likes getting to source.
Yeah.
And it looks like he did that there.
Yeah. We can probably fast forward it.
Okay.
I know he went, just fast forward for a bit. Oh, yeah. So he goes back to that area where we talked about.
Yeah, but that's a really cool point.
That's where we finished, was he was really interested in that back corridor area.
And were you just running out of time where you just had to call finish and you were
but I
potentially working something out?
I didn't see anything like, oh, there's something here, but I saw a definite interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. And you probably didn't have enough time to know, was he just looking harder because he loves the game, or was there something else to work out? Mm-hmm. We were told an unknown number and there were only 3. So, I mean, I could see where people would expect to see a few more hides. Yeah. All right.
Certainly we're hoping for a few more hides.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
5 if we're being specific.
All right, so let's watch Kai's video here.
You ready?
Yes, he is.
Kai's got so much energy.
Kai is always ready.
He is always ready. He was ready before we even got to the stage before. So, drivey. Sorry you get to watch me jog slightly. Get to hear me pant. But hey, you know what?
It just makes me smile.
He's a dog who really loves his job.
I can't believe he's 11 years old.
So I think it's really interesting. He's going to go up one side, a little turn there. But I don't have the same experience that you guys do, guys, because that's the last time that we are over there. Yeah. And so Kai tends to search he does better with higher hides. So
Yeah.
his head carriage is sort of medium high compared to like Mayru tends to search with a very low head carriage.
Yeah.
And so I just think it was a detriment, a fast moving dog and a higher head, and there just wasn't anything for that odor to collect on to keep him there.
Yep.
And so he did 2 passes, and we called it clear, and unfortunately that was the wrong choice. But he's doing a beautiful job here of painting that
Nice.
picture,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
And it's like he's
Right
right,
to
on,
source.
right? It's like bam.
Oh
here
yeah,
it
that was
is.
very clear.
And in Kai's younger years, he would do kind of desperation elevation, and so the fact that we've honed it now, where like we get a lot of yeses on higher calls as opposed to no's, is great. So I loved this hide. So this is the last hide that we're going to find. But you know, he gets in there, and I literally just went on to one knee at some point and just said, "I'm just going to let you find it." He wants to put his nose on source. I know there's odor under there, but I think it's, for me, very important that he gets the chance to solve. And he's actually going to put his feet on something.
Yeah.
And then literally he sources the hide, and he comes out going, alert! You know, like, yeah, we got it.
So you're saying you just waited to call?
I just waited to call. I
Could have.
I knew there was.
Yeah.
I knew that it was a yes in there. But it's like, you know what? I'll do you a service. I'm in. I'm present in your search. It isn't about me in the competition. It's about the search. And of course, in typical Kai style, I'm the only one that has to climb through that 6-inch hole.
He has no regard for his handler at all.
And and so you're like, yay, on leash. But I would already have searched on leash. So we can fast forward from here for a while because
it's been 2.5 minutes, and he found 2 of the 3 hides,
and that's all he's going to find.
Yep.
But we're going to get there, so you can stop in here. So we ended up having a lot of interest here as well, and I was fairly sure we had left a hide when we left. I thought it was over here though, and I was trying. Look at how deep he goes. I was trying to figure out, is it coming from that fire truck hide or is it a new hide? And so you just had to sort of play around with it. But I think he turns himself around and he never goes back down that aisle. But there's definitely a point of convergence with the with the fire truck on that teacup though. So that makes sense why like Mayru wanted to interact with it, even though he thought it was terrifying.
I just have to pause it here for a second because I see some parallel with the archery search when, you know, I ended with Mayru swimming in all the tables and chairs. You know, I could have chosen to go work another area, but like this experience, he's working so intensely, it's hard to pull him away from that.
Yeah, well, I don't know if there's another hide or where it is. So it's like, I may as well let him tell me. Yeah. He's the one with the nose.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, let's see this play.
You have a nose.
It doesn't work that well.
Not as well as theirs.
So, yeah, we will not continue to do this for another 1 minute and 19 seconds, which is what I did. But, yes, we don't make any more progress than that.
That's fair.
Right, so it's like I do, but this goes back to, that's almost what you could say, that desperation elevation there.
Sure,
where it's kind of like is there odor there? I don't know why there would be. That was interesting because he doesn't normally look at me, so to have him need kind of a re-cue was fascinating. And and then he hits that point pretty much where Mayru stopped, and he turns around and does an about face. And this is the only other place where I see odor information, and it's like, again, you go, is it deep somewhere or is it the fire truck?
Yeah.
There's that 30-second warning, so he checks in. But in the end, we're not going to find anything else, and I'm going to call finish. So, so we can end the video.
All right. Yeah, that was a great search. All right. Thoughts on the beef barn search?
I wanted to find more hides.
Yeah, like I said, that's always hard in an unknown search.
But I mean, he did great work. You know, he was very honest, and he cleared a lot of space, and I trusted that space was clear.
And it's always a great challenge to have a small number of hides and an unknown parameter, and
I will say that sometimes you don't know, but you get a sense that, okay, I think we found everything, and maybe you're like me and you're still chicken and you stay in. But in that search, I mean, not so much that I don't know. It was just a little bit hard to read what was going on and if
Yeah.
there were any more hides.
Yeah. I was sure I had left one, but it was not where I thought it was.
Yeah.
But, but I was okay. Like, I was actually pretty good. Okay, so then 8 hides in the morning, that's not too bad, right?
All right, should we move on to our next search?
Yeah, let's move on to our next.
Autumn and Melissa from the future here. We got a little carried away with our discussion, so we're going to take a brief break before digging into the afternoon searches.
Until next time, stay curious. On the next episode of Hide and Seek, we struggle to find everything in the known number search. Because I proudly said, I hate known number searches right after I called finish. And the sea of despair in containers takes its toll.
Pretty soon, it starts to go off the rails.
Alert. Okay. Good. That is not it. Alert. Good boy. I'm gonna call finish. I don't want to be in here anymore.